And folks, as promised, I am now joined by the delightful Drea Humphrey. Not exactly in the middle of nowhere, maybe the right side of nowhere, but in a really, really remote place filled with hundreds of very special birds. Drea, please inform our audience, what is the latest on those precious ostriches?
Well, first, I'll let everybody have a look at them. They're just as curious about us as the people who come here to see them are about them. And they've got their prehistoric feet, their little raptor feet and everything like that. But the latest, or I'll start with, in case nobody knows the story, as there was someone who just came here the other day who hadn't heard anything up until just recently. And that is, behind me is just a small section of a herd of 400 healthy ostriches. As of today, they've been healthy for 234 days. And the farmers here have been saying, why is the Canadian Food Inspection Agency going to cull them? Especially when they're not for human consumption. Instead, their eggs were being used as part of research to fight viruses with therapeutics. So not the mRNA vaccine technology that Big Pharma is working on to address the avian flu. And now that they have the avian flu, the farmers, scientists, politicians in Canada, and the health officials from the US are all saying, wait, why would you slaughter this herd when now they have the avian flu and we can find a better option than mass culling? And they want to actually partner with Canada, the NIH, the FDA, the head of Medicare, which is Dr. Oz, and of course, Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. all want to lock arms with Canada with our so-called elbows up.
Yep.
And here any day, the CFIA can come to kill these animals.
Yeah, it is getting very high profile attention. Drea, what I want you to spend some time on is, what is the unspoken reason the federal government is hell-bent to take out, well, animals that are not only healthy, they're harmless. Yet this is a clear and present danger to, I mean, I don't even know how many people live in that area of British Columbia you're in. But again, what is the real rationale why Ottawa wants these birds dead?
Well, that's the thing. These non-poultry birds are in their own zone, which is another reason to leave them the heck alone. I actually just put my last report at savetheostriches.com, where you can find all of the reports, was about what you're asking. Why? Why on earth would this still be happening when it's now become a scientific farming freedom, food freedom, and economic freedom issue? And I think for myself, when I weigh in on that issue, I think it's two things. The first thing is that if they stop their policy, if the CFIA changes their policy because farmers say so, then they're worried about, well, what about the other farmers? So in British Columbia alone, in the last 3 years, they have mass culled 9 million birds in the name of avian flu. Well, here's the thing. These birds are catching this from the wild. Why are we not seeing wild birds dying at mass because they've got the avian flu? Well, that's because they have immunity, just like these birds behind me, and they're passing that on to their offspring. But what we're doing with our stamp out policy, which is based out of the World Health Organization, is as soon as these birds get sick, we're killing them and the survivors. So the policy needs to change so that they can have their offspring, and in this case, further research. And then the other thing is, and I'll go down conspiracy land, is when you slaughter these birds, you're slaughtering the science that competes with Big Pharma. So when we're saying, hey, wait, they're healthy, but also we can find a better way to manage this virus, I don't think that's a very attracting offer for Canada.
That is absolutely fascinating, especially the Big Pharma part. But if what you say is correct, if CFIA is worried about losing face, if you will, Drea, why can't they just say, upon further reflection, we're not going to go ahead with the cull. It's off. We made a mistake. Contrary to what they might think, the public is very forgiven. If you are sincerely apologizing or if you're reversing course for the right reasons, people aren't going to criticize them. They're going to applaud. So the idea that these federal bureaucrats are worried about losing face and that means they're going to kill hundreds of ostriches to keep up appearances, I think that's gross.
Well, you're right. This is nonpartisan. Even Premier David Eby came on record saying he's not happy with how the agency is behaving. I'm just turning around so you can see some of the people who are camping out behind me. The field goes very far. So you're right. Nobody's going to be mad if the agency says, you know what, we've looked deeper and this is a unique situation. And again, I say these are not poultry, so they have an easy out. They could have just said these birds, which is true, which is the science, they don't catch the virus like chickens. When it hits a chicken flock, it really does run through all of them very fast. They had about 470 birds and 69 of them did die last year. And they were almost all the young ones, which also indicated that the older ones, these guys can live for, I think, over 60 years. They've had some for 35 years, that they have already had immunity of some sort to this virus. So nobody's going to be mad. Everybody's going to be happy. Everybody's going to be on the same page. But in addition to not going ahead and doing that, which they have the ability to do so in that agency, they're saying, no, we're not going to go and test those birds. And in fact, if the farmers test the birds, and this is what the mainstream media misses most of the time, there's some that will report it, but if the farmers test the birds, they face jail time. They face a huge penalty. If they on their own money go there and test these birds and tell the world that they're healthy, which we all know they are, they go to jail.
Unbelievable. You know, Andrea, I just wanted to weigh in on, I guess, the whole animal husbandry issue in Canada, because as I said, healthy and harmless birds, we got to slaughter them. In downtown Toronto, and Lincoln Jay and I chronicled this going back to May, there is a coyote problem. We have had pets snatched in front of their owners. One almost got away with a toddler, except for his screaming mother scaring it away. And the city's response, oh, it's not to cull them, it's to put up warning signs. I'm not making this up. Like, be on the lookout for Wile E. Coyote. He means business. There's only one way to deal with a coyote population out of control. And I've talked to people in the animal world. You have to, unfortunately, cull them. You're not allowed to move them more than 900 meters. Don't even get me started with that. So why is it that a dangerous animal, potentially dangerous animal in downtown Toronto, oh, you know what, let's learn to live with our neighbors. They actually put that on one of the city signs until they took it down. They got international ridicule of that. But let's live with these carnivores and hope for the best. And meanwhile, these ostriches have to be slaughtered. I'm aghast, Drea. I can't figure this out.
Well, you know, none of it sounds surprising anymore. They told us to leave our keys out in case there's going to be a robber. Now they're telling us if someone breaks in your home, wants to, you know, God forbid, rape your child, just comply, you know, don't fight back. So none of it in Clown Canada is really surprising. I live in a state of shocked but not surprised. That's what's happening with this situation as well. The coyote issue you're describing sounds very like everyday life in British Columbia, at least where I live, to be honest. That the same thing happens out where I live, where people lose their small dogs and their small animals to coyotes, and even, you know, they'll advance at smaller kids. So I don't know if you guys have it worse for us or we're just used to. I mean, I've had a cougar on my lawn. There's a bear at my door like every 2 weeks. Thankfully, my dog, he grunts when there's a bear, so we know. So I don't know. Maybe you city slickers are just not used to it yet.
Last month I had a cougar on my lawn. I think she was over 50. Anyway, Drea, here's the big question. When will this crackdown, if it occurs, and I don't know if the CFIA is bluffing, but when is it going to happen? Is it a matter, I'm just looking at the optics, I'm looking at those demonstrators, I'm looking at you there being the witness to what could be an atrocity, I think. Is it a matter of a siege mentality. We're going to wait these people out. In winter, it's going to get a whole of a heck of a lot colder. And that's when we'll move in, perhaps under cover of the night. What is your theory there, Drea?
Well, first, I'd like to say that this farm has had little miracle after little miracle that has resulted in these birds being alive in the first place. Okay, so there has been many opportunities for the CFI to come in, but each time they have to regroup, they have to find people. One example was the regional district nearby. After the farmers went there and pled, please don't let them kill these healthy animals, after they got a tip that that's where they were going to dispose in the landfill. The regional district unanimously voted and said, no, we're not going to take these carcasses unless you test them, unless you test the animals, which is exactly what the farmers are asking. And so that was a setback that allowed them to get into the next level of legal recourse, which was dismissed because the policy itself isn't illegal. The policy is just crap, right? Yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing happening right now. There is no reason that the CFIA shouldn't have been able to come and cull these birds. That's why I came back, because they got a credible tip saying that a task force was being put together. So when I hear that, I think that's police to come assist whoever the CFIA is hired. That takes some time, but there has got to be a sense of urgency, since there have been two legal avenues, the last being in the Federal Court of Appeal. And then they know these farmers, and that's the good news that I have to share. We're going to try to get a Supreme Court, albeit slim. Their chances at succeeding, because it was a unanimous dismissal in the lower court. So yesterday, their lawyer did file for an appeal. And so if we hear that both parties are going to be able to put submissions forward, meaning the judge hasn't responded to that filing yet, so anything could happen. But if we do hear that the judge says, okay, both sides, you need to submit by that date, then we know there's a few more days. And I think what the farm is hoping is that the international pressure, the grassroots pressure, that it just continues to get so thick that the CFIA says, okay, there's too many people on this. I think that's what they're hoping. But it really is a miracle that they're alive in the first place for 233 days beyond the cull order, which was in place last December last year.
Yeah. Well, Drea, I really hope this story does have a happy ending. And I can tell you something you said, they've struck a task force. Doesn't that tell you everything you need to know about Canada under these Liberals? How about a task force to get shovels in the ground to build housing in Canada? How about a task force to get crime eliminated from the streets? Well, you don't even need a task force. You just have to enforce sentences. Oh, no. A problem that doesn't exist. That's where we have to give our priorities to. Unbelievable. Drea, last word goes to you on all things ostriches.
Well, the last words is thank you for everybody who's been a part of making the exposure of this injustice happen. I really think that if these birds survive, so does so much that's important to Canada. Again, farming, food sovereignty, the ability for you to have what food you want on your table, scientific, enough of big pharma having a monopoly over what type of science we get access to. And if Canada really wants to put its economy first, it would make sense to partner with this BC-based flock, with Japan, with the US, like they're wanting to. So thank you for everybody who has gone to savetheostriches.com and donated. I think we're still not broken the cost for me to basically live here in this camper van with the Starlink and everything. But if you could continue to chip in a little bit to help us be able to have our boots on the ground in case they do roll up, I'm the only news here. So if you guys want to know what's happening, please continue donating at savetheostriches.com. And also we have set up there a one-click email. You go in there, you can use what I wrote, or you can write respectfully what you'd like to say. And within a click, you will fire off your demand for these birds to survive in just seconds. So it's so easy, and it will go to all of the right people, including Mark Carney. So savetheostriches.com. And thank you for everybody doing that.
Well, there you have it, Drea. I got to tell you, the last 15 minutes ostriches, coyotes, cougars. I feel like I'm co-hosting Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. People of a certain vintage will get that reference. I know you're too young. But Drea, you are doing wonderful work on the ground. As you mentioned, you're the only reporter there. That speaks very poorly of the mainstream media. I think this is an overlooked, underreported story, especially given the high-profile attention it is receiving south of the border. I guess when it comes to the mainstream media, they get funded by the federal government, so don't want to bite the hand that feeds, I suppose. Drea, you have a wonderful weekend, and I know you'll be the first to break the news, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent regarding the ostriches. Thank you so much.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Take care. And that was Drea Humphrey in Edgewood, British Columbia. And folks,
listen up, Calgary. Our Rebel News 10th birthday bash is almost here, and we want you there. But early bird ticket sales end this Monday night at midnight. After that, prices go up, no exceptions. So lock in your spot now for an unforgettable night of fun, food, free speech, and music. And don't worry, Toronto, we didn't forget about you. We've got a birthday bash coming your way in October. Head on over to happybirthdayrebel.com. Grab your tickets today before the deadline passes you by.